All right, everyone, welcome. I saw a handful more for people joining us here. I just want to do some quick housekeeping notes. As I mentioned, I'm sure many of you are familiar here with engaging on Zoom. Some of you, this might be new as a webinar platform. Zoom does have some tools on the dashboard. So if you sort of scroll your cursor at the bottom or the top of your window, you should see sort of a library of tools pop up. We use 3 throughout the program tonight. The primary one I want to draw your attention to, though, is the Q&A feature. If you have any questions throughout the night, that is the best place to throw those questions. We like to make sure we keep them organized. The chat is a really great place to keep conversation going, or if you're engaging with one another, or if you want to respond to the presentation, it's a good place for us to kind of keep track of more casual details there. But again, the Q&A feature is what I would want to draw your attention to. The raise the hand feature is a tool that we use usually at the, say, tail end of the program, that if we need to turn on your audio or have a more detailed conversation, we can sort of unmute those tools for you so that we can, again, have a conversation or a more detailed one if, say, the Q&A feature doesn't suffice. So throughout the night, if any questions pop up, please use that Q&A feature. We keep a good pulse on it. But we do anticipate more folks tuning in. So we want to make sure we get started because we have a very full agenda for you all tonight. Very excited to welcome you all to our Spring Family Forum for March. We do have some important updates and I anticipate some great conversation here. Ken, I think if you wouldn't mind, just go ahead and scroll through. I'd like to first introduce Nicole Lang. Nicole Lang is our Associate Vice President for University Engagement and Protocol, and also the Interim Associate Vice President for Alumni Relations. Nicole, as always, it's great to see you. Welcome.
Hi, Chris. Nice to see you too. I can't think of anyone I want to spend a Sunday evening with more than this group. Hello, everyone. It's so nice to see you again at our Gator Family Forum. Chris mentioned my very lengthy title, and the one piece I would like to add, that the most important title I carry around with me is being an alum of San Francisco State University. It was an honor and a joy to attend as a student and now to work here. So again, I want to thank you, and thank you, Chris, for hosting, being our ongoing host of the Family Forum series. Tonight, we're also going to be joined by Mia Rice-Weber, who's going to discuss the university's 2021 Fall Student Survey, Conrad Tobias and David Rourke, who will provide updates on housing and residential life, Orlando Harris, who will update us on what's happening in career services, and Lee Twyman, who will let us know all the ways your student can get involved in campus life. Joining us at the top of our program will be our president, Dr. Lynn Mahoney, who's going to provide a campus update and answer your questions. I'm also just incredibly proud to introduce our amazing student mentors, Grace Aguirre, Alina Tapia Silva, Claudia Hirons, and John B. Kumar. Since our very first forum, our student mentors have helped to answer your questions and provide us with really valuable and vital student insight. We're very grateful to have them again with us here tonight. We know this continues to be a challenging time. We started this Family Forum series to create a community of student supporters and to make sure that campus resources are as accessible as possible, not only to students, but to those closest to them. So thank you for supporting your students and this series. Now, for anyone out there tonight who has a student getting ready to graduate, we're offering free Alumni Association membership to all of our graduates from now until June 30th. 2021. Memberships to the Alumni Association come with lifelong benefits, including SF State Career Resources, Handshake, which can help connect your students with professionals in their field of study and help them find jobs and internships. We're dropping the link in the chat so you can learn a little bit more about that. And spring also means that soon we will be celebrating our graduates at our virtual commencement ceremony, which is going to be held on May 21st. You can go to commencement.sfsu.edu for resources to prepare for commencement. Keep checking the chat. We'll drop that in there as well. And the official commencement registration site and app is going to launch a little later this month. So be on the lookout for that as well. We are counting down the days until we can be on the campus again together. But know that we are doing our very best to provide you and your student with the most up-to-date information and resources. Following tonight's forum, you're going to receive a survey where you can let us know other issues or questions you'd like for us to address in future forums. And we're also recording tonight's program, so you can watch it again and check that out. So that's enough for me. I am now thrilled to turn the program back over to our very charming and exceedingly knowledgeable in all things students, Chris Trudell.
Thank you, Nicole. That should be a title in itself. Thank you, and always
put it on the card. Put it on your business card.
I appreciate the time you spend with us for each and every family forum, and I like to share with the group tonight. It has been a year that we have been, we as a university, as staff, as faculty, and especially as students and families have been navigating a remote reality, and part of that has been through, of course, platforms like Zoom, which in all transparency and all honesty, we know it's not ideal, but I do want to maybe highlight some silver lining. We have not hosted family forums to this extent before. And since about a year now, we have been running consistently hosting family forums because of our need to respond and engage remotely. So we plan to continue to keep family forums moving forward as we do return at some point in the fall semester, and nonetheless, something that I guess is silver lining that we will continue to carry forward. As Nicole mentioned, I'm sort of your host tonight. My name is Chris Trudell. I'm the Interim Assistant Dean of Students, and my primary focus over new student and family programs and first year experience. And I would just like to kind of talk about what we're going to go over tonight. So Ken, if you wouldn't mind, next slide, please. For our agenda, we have gone through some introductions, but we'll do our part to reintroduce our speakers as we go through the program. But first and formally, we'll kick off with some welcome and updates from President Lynn Mahoney. Further, Dr. Mia Rice-Weber will be joining us to go over a recent survey regarding fall 2021 in respect to student insights and experiences and in their anticipation for the fall. We have some information and updates regarding university housing and residential life. So while those are two separate sections, we will kind of have a broader conversation about university housing and residential life. And I know there's been many questions regarding that particular topic throughout the year. So grateful that our staff and administrators are able to join us tonight, and hopefully we can provide some more insight and clarity in respect to the questions that have continued to mature over the past few months. And finally, we'll have some conversations and kind of echoing back from our last family forum about helping your student get connected. We had some really healthy conversations at our last family forum about student wellness, care, and the services that are available through the university. But we started to realize that as students get situated and feeling more comfortable, they're looking for ways to get connected. So I'm excited to invite Orlando Harris and Lee Twyman. Orlando's going to talk about career services and leadership development, an essential office on campus that's critical for all students, first year, sophomore, junior, senior, graduate alike. It's a great area to get formally connected and help start thinking about ways to get involved that help students both in their academics as well as their career. And then Lee is going to talk about student activities and events. And that's sort of the co-curricular, the supplemental experience that partners with students' academic work. And that is everything from clubs, organizations, programming, and events in which students can participate and build a relationship with the university. So again, a full night, so we're going to keep things forward. I do want to emphasize and highlight that the Q&A feature is a great way to throw questions at us. We'll do our best to answer all of them. We'll either type them out or answer them live. So if any questions do pop up, that's the place to get them on our radar. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we're going to continue with our welcome, and I'm very honored to be able to welcome the university's president, Lynn Mahoney. Lynn Mahoney is joining us on a weekend. I know you're busy, Lynn. I'm really grateful that you're here with us, but I'll hand it off to you in respect to getting the program started. Welcome.
Thanks, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here. I just want to start by sharing a quick observation. I regularly meet with groups of faculty and staff, and as you heard at the top of this from Nicole Lang, it is not uncommon for our alumni to continue to work at the university. And I think there's no better testament to the experience that students have here than their desire to stay on. So it's always a real pleasure when I see how many alumni work here. So I thought I would just kind of quickly give everyone kind of an indication of where we've been, where we are, where we're headed, and I imagine most folks' questions are about the fall. So as Chris noted, we just marked a year of remote learning and working. When I sent out the email on Monday, March 9th, I expected to see everyone in the middle of April 2020. And clearly the year did not play out as we expected it to. So I am really quite proud of what we have accomplished as a university. San Francisco State has one of the lowest transmissions of COVID-19 in the CSU and among universities nationwide. And our faculty and our students and our staff have worked so hard to continue to make progress, to continue to stay connected. I know it has not been easy, and I know remote learning has been particularly hard for some students. And for many of us, it's just not the same. So I am very grateful for all of the efforts that everyone has made, and to family members, to those of you who have your students at home where you did not expect them this year, nor were they expected to be. I'm also grateful for the support that you've shown your students. So where we are now is we're finishing up our spring remote semester. We have a very small number, less than 1% of our classes are in person this semester. The San Francisco Department of Public Health has to approve every course we offer on campus. San Francisco, I'm also proud to say, has the lowest transmission of COVID-19 of any large city in the United States. And they've done that partially with very conservative measures. And so we have had very, very little on campus this year. But we are looking forward. One of the wonderful things that the state of California did was it privileged, or it has privileged teachers, K through 12 and higher education across the state in terms of vaccines. So our faculty and staff are enthusiastically getting vaccinated based on the conversations I'm having with them and the surveys that we've taken of them, where vast majority, 80% or more, are looking forward to getting the vaccine. And our students are looking forward as well. And I think the latest I heard from Governor Newsom over the weekend was that he's hoping by the end of April to have enough vaccine that anyone 18 or over will be eligible. So I know our students will be rushing to do that as well. So where we're at is that we, I think, are near finishing what has been probably the hardest year in higher education ever. And again, I know it's been hard, but where I look around, I see successes. I see our faculty working really hard to figure out how to get this done. I see our students accomplishing the same. I see our staff doing the same. And just to share two kind of high points, our advising appointments this last year have been up, this academic year, 20%. So actually our students are getting more advising, and because of our use of new electronic tools, better advising than they did face-to-face. So there actually have been some gains. In addition, our faculty have been enthusiastically taking part in professional development opportunities to learn how to teach better online. By fall, 75% had taken basically a course in how to do this better, and they continue to reach out to our Center for Excellence and Equity in Teaching and Learning for assistance. So, but where we're headed, and that's what we're really looking forward to. So our plan is to have as many students back on campus in the fall as we safely can and are allowed to by the San Francisco Department of Public Health. So we are planning our fall schedule now. Face coverings are here to stay, at least for 2021, gathering also for the spring of 22. So when students return in the fall, they should have plenty of those, and we will have plenty of those on hand as well. And right now we're being told we still have to plan for physical distancing. Right now the rule is still 6 feet. We're hearing that the CDC has said for K through 12, 3 feet. And we're waiting to hear what we'll be allowed to do from the San Francisco Department of Public Health. But the good news is, while we'll plan for 6 feet, when we're allowed to have 3 feet, it just means we can open up more seats in classes. So our goal again is to be as aggressive as we can to get as many people safely back on campus. Fall 21 though will be transitionary. Again, I've told you that it's going to be a minimum of 3 feet, and it could be as much as 6 feet. So you're not talking about a traditional college experience. You're talking about people sitting further away in classrooms. But it's going to be a huge step in the right direction. And then we're going to hope for a fully 100% spring. That physical distancing, again, I've heard face coverings may last through the spring, but if we could be next to each other with face coverings on, that would still be a great step in the right direction. And again, we have a lot to look forward to. Our professors are going to return to the university better teachers than they left. My husband is a professor at Cal State Long Beach. He teaches US history, and he's been teaching remotely from up here in San Francisco. And I've actually had an opportunity to watch up close and personal how people's teaching has evolved over the last year. And the kinds of changes that faculty are making to improve the remote learning experience are actually going to make the in-person learning experience even better. So I think the pandemic will have developed a new teaching and learning skills, and the same goes for students. We're also going to make better use of technology as we kind of combine face-to-face and remote, things like Family Forum. We didn't do enough of this in the past. And I saw that we're talking to folks in Beverly Hills and Orange County, all over the state, Los Angeles. And so we're Oakland. It means you don't have to cross that bridge. So we'll make sure we continue to use technology to improve our outreach to our community and to our family members. But we'll also continue to use it to help serve our students. I know you're going to get a chance to speak to Orlando Harris a little bit later, and our Leadership and Career Development Center has done a really remarkable job this year of leveraging the remote world to improve access to services for students. And I mentioned advising already. We're going to continue to do that as well. So we'll come back face to face, which will be much better, but we'll be able to leverage the uses of technology that we've mastered this year to actually serve our students and their families and our communities even better. Physically, we have a lot to look forward to. While the pandemic was raging last August, we opened a new residential apartment building, Manzanita Square, and we're looking forward to be able to more fully occupy that building in the fall. Even more exciting is we have just opened the Marcus Hall for the Liberal and Creative Arts, which has state-of-the-art learning environment for broadcast news and other programs. And I had an opportunity to visit the building about a week and a half ago, and it's absolutely stunning. And it will provide students with really unique opportunities to study, to work together, and to develop their skills. And also equally exciting, we'll be breaking ground on a new science building. I am really happy to say that the California State University made our new science building their #1 capital building plan for the fall. And so we'll be moving ahead with a $150 million state-of-the-art science building, which will have state-of-the-art laboratories, maker space, places for students to engage in collaborative hands-on learning. It's really going to be a real game changer for us. And we already have tremendous expertise and great success in the life sciences, and this is only going to improve that. So we have a lot to look forward to. And just on one last note, if you've been following the news, in 2020, the California State University system took a $300 million cut to its budget due to COVID. And I won't deny that that was hard across the system, and it was hard at San Francisco State. But about 3 weeks ago, the governor announced mid-budget cycle, this is unheralded or unprecedented, that he and the legislature have reached an agreement to restore that budget cut fully. And indications are we may actually get some additional funds. So, you know, a year ago, things looked hard, it looked unending. And now with the vaccine rollout across the state, with prioritizing higher education, with restoration of state budgets, I think I speak for probably everybody on this and for thousands at San Francisco State, we are really excited about coming back in fall. I will also add, for those with any anxiety, the federal government has really stepped up and has provided us with tens of millions of dollars, which are going to help us ensure that the environment is safe when students return. So with that, I will open this up to questions and answers, and just tell you that you have no idea how much I look forward to seeing your students in person in 2021. So thank you. Chris, are you going to moderate some Q&A?
Yeah. Well, I will, and thank you, President Mahoney, for spending some time with us tonight. I'll try to frame some of the questions that have popped up, and two in particular are sort of, you know, when students do return this fall, what would that transition look like? Well, you know, given that there'll be some social distancing, I know I've heard some conversations about class size limits, and maybe some students having classes that are in person and then some of their class schedule being remote. Could you share some of your insights in respect to that?
Sure. Everything will be driven by the San Francisco Department of Public Health and by the need for physical distancing. So if we have to keep students 6 feet apart in a classroom, that will reduce the capacity. We're going to hope for 3 feet, and that will increase the capacity, but it still means there'll be fewer in the actual classroom. So that limits, right, the number of folks we can get on campus. So we're also looking at other non-traditional spaces. I've kind of said, like, every conference room, every nook and cranny, what can we do to maximize the number of students on campus? So again, the number who can actually take a face-to-face class will be driven by that physical distancing requirement. Our hope is that most students will be able to take a mix of remote and in-person, so that that people benefit from the both. But for those, we do have some students though who do not want to return in the fall. They are concerned about health. They're not ready to return. They've only got 1 semester left. There are a host of reasons. So we're also going to accommodate students who do not want to return to face-to-face instruction in the fall. Again, we're viewing the fall as transitionary. So students can expect to take some combination, or students can opt to take fully remote classes as well. The schedule of classes will be published closer to the end of April, beginning of May. I'll be making some campus announcements at the beginning of April. But again, I'm going to beg your patience, because I report to the Department of Public Health at the moment, which is not something I ever expected. And so the news could change. I'm hoping the news keeps changing for the better. But we're just going to communicate as consistently as we can and do our best to get as many people as we are allowed and can do safely back in the fall.
Thank you. And another question, and again, I'm kind of fusing some of the topics here. Questions specifically around vaccination. Will it be required? How might that be an expectation for students either living on campus or going and attending classes?
We haven't made a decision yet, but it is likely at this point we will require vaccinations for students living in residence halls, with obviously exceptions for health and religious reasons. I'm going to expect that the fall will be a mixture of vaccinated people and lots of testing. Our goal is to have the majority of people vaccinated. And again, we're waiting for the Department of Public Health. The question I've asked, if they're vaccinated, do we also have to do the test? We have as many questions as you do. So we talk to the Department of Public Health almost every week. So at the moment, it would appear that we are likely to require vaccination for students living in residence halls, and that we're going to obviously do a lot to encourage everyone to get vaccinated. And then we'll also have some kind of a testing program. So again, we're working with the Department of Public Health, and they're making these rules up now as they look ahead. So, but I will say this, we're going to do a lot to encourage people to vaccinate. So, and we'll also do our part to see if we can help those students who can't get access to a vaccine get access to a vaccine. I have a lot of hope for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is a 1 dose and is very safe and very effective. In fact, I have two two children of my own who are in their 20s, and I'm really hoping I can get them that Johnson & Johnson vaccine sooner rather than later. So vaccines and testing.
And I know we're limited on time with you, and if you don't mind, I'll think maybe a broader question to end on with you. And given that our audience, a lot of families with us tonight and probably accompanied with their student, I know many might be thinking about making that decision. Should I enroll in classes in person? Do I want to do all remote? Do I want to move to San Francisco? I'm curious if you have sort of some broad insight. What would you do if you were in these families' shoes making those tough decisions? How might you weigh them or stay in tune? How to find information? I know that's a broad question, but putting it out there.
So we do have a COVID website, and we will be updating that again the beginning of April, and we'll continue to update it as I hear from the San Francisco Department of Public Health. We'll also use social media. And you're welcome to always, there's a button on the page, which I think someone just posted, where you can actually ask questions as well. And that gets filtered through our communications people, so you get the right answer to your question. So, and if we haven't posted the information, you need to ask us, because we can always add it if we haven't been as diligent. That decision let me start by this: stay in school, come back face-to-face, enroll remotely. This is not the moment to take a pause in your education. If the pandemic has taught us nothing, and I think we've learned a lot, people with college degrees were far less likely to suffer unemployment during the pandemic or in other recessions, far more likely to have access to healthcare, far less likely to get sick. So, a college degree it's a step to a better future. So first thing is, however you want to study in the fall, study. And then I ask families and students and their friends to make individual decisions. If you're going to be so anxious about being even 3 feet or 6 feet from other people indoors, then maybe another remote semester is good for you, because anxiety is not going to, it's not going to help. So think about that. On the other hand, though, if this has been a real struggle for you, and I heard from a mom who's got 2 students here, one is sophomore, one is senior, and one did okay. One is making it through. The other paused because he or she just couldn't do it remotely. That student should come back and move to San Francisco, live in one of our res halls or rent an apartment with friends, and come back. So probably a mix of face-to-face and remote, but some face-to-face would probably be helpful there. We're going to do our best to give you a great educational experience, however you choose to do it in the fall. I personally am looking forward to face-to-face, but I even think my future is a combination of face-to-face and hybrid. I'm going to do a lot more meetings like this. I'm going to travel less to the chancellor's office in Long Beach for meetings, because we've discovered that we can do some things very well this way, but there are other things we can't. So reach out for help. You're going to meet a whole host of extraordinarily talented and dedicated staff and faculty this evening. So reach out to us, and we'll get this back on track. And I really do believe we're going to return better than we left.
I agree. Well, President Mahoney, thank you for spending some time with us tonight on a Sunday with our families and again, dedicated people here and supporting students. And I do wholeheartedly believe sort of our theme with our family forums is that we're all partners in this process and supporting students. And again, of course, you are an important partner in that process. So thank you very much for spending some time with us.
Thank you for having me, and thank you to everyone else who's giving up a Sunday to participate. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Bye.
Well, we will continue to move through with our program. We again have a very full agenda, and I understand that there are, say, a handful of questions that maybe we didn't directly get asked to President Mahoney, but I do want to make sure we address those, but continue to move forward with the program. So we'll go ahead to the next slide. And that is our student learning and experience survey. I have the privilege of introducing Mia Riceweber, Dr. Mia Riceweber, who helped facilitate this the survey here, and we wanted to share some casual data with you just to kind of get some insight to what some of our students were thinking. So Mia, welcome. Good to see you. But I'll hand it off to you and stay here with you and let you know if there's questions as you wrap up.
Thank you so much, Chris. And good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for inviting me to be here. I'm excited to be able to share the student learning and experience survey with you. And yeah, if there are any questions, Chris, just let me know what they are. So about 6 weeks ago, the Dean of Students office launched a survey of all of our students, all of our current students. And all we wanted to do was just take a temperature of what our students were thinking about for the fall semester. This was a survey that was asking them to share with us, their hopes for what courses might look like, what their plans might be for living on campus or living in the Bay or living at home with families. And then to give us a little bit of feedback on how they were feeling about the SF state response to COVID-19 that's happened in the last year. And the survey was alive for about 2 weeks, and we had over 2,200 students respond, which was an incredible sampling. And so just to give you just a little bit of insight into what they were thinking, and I'll asterisk this with, this was 6 weeks ago, and so much has happened. So many more, people have been vaccinated, and things have shifted in 6 weeks. So I'll just, remind you that this was the kind of the first step our university took in reaching out to students in saying, what are you thinking about for fall 2021? So of the 2,200 students who responded to the survey, we had roughly 70% of our respondents were indicating they were comfortable either in a fully remote capacity or in a hybrid capacity for taking classes. And we said, what happens if there's physical distancing, and what happens if there are face covering requirements. Obviously, we know at this point, we know that those things are probably certain components of the fall semester. Here we go. Thank you. Thank you, Ken. So yeah, we see pretty much for every question we asked, we asked if COVID-19 is still happening and we're still wrestling with it, how would you prefer to take classes for the fall? And we saw just over 50% of students saying remote, and about just over 20% saying that they prefer to take classes in a hybrid capacity. And then we changed the question just slightly, said, what about physical distancing? What if physical distancing was a requirement in your courses and our face coverings? And we saw very similar numbers kind of for each of those questions. About 50% of our students were very comfortable in that remote capacity, and about 20% wanted to experience their coursework in a hybrid capacity. And so, I don't know how this has shifted yet in 6 weeks, but 6 weeks ago, that's where our students kind of felt most comfortable for fall 2021. And what's interesting is that it's kind of kicking off after our spring break. We're going to continue this conversation. Associated Students, in partnership with the Dean of Students office, is going to host a mini series where they're going to actually interview President Mahoney and interview other leaders at the university to ask similar questions about fall. Ask the questions we're all, dying to ask. And perhaps in a couple of weeks, we'll have a little bit more clarity what fall might look like with regard to how many classes are available and things like that. But these are all opportunities for our students to hear from leadership and to share a little bit of their insight as well for how they're hoping the fall will look. The interesting piece of this is that about 47% of our students indicated that they plan to live at home with family for the fall semester. And again, this was just 6 weeks ago, so we don't know how this has shifted. But so 47% of students indicated that they might be living at home with family, and about 46% of our students said they had plans to return to either San Francisco or the Bay Area. And so those were also really key components, I think, for our students for future plans, right? For either their hopes to live in on-campus housing or their hopes to return to the Bay. We did not necessarily look at how those plans aligned with who was interested in in-person courses and who was interested in remote, but it looks like nearly 50% of our students are hoping to return to the Bay Area for the fall semester and to be close to the city. Let's see, Ken, what's the next slide? Let's peek at that next slide. This is a very interesting one. So we ask students when the COVID-19 vaccine is available to them, how likely are they to elect to receive the vaccine? Oh, I'm sorry, wait. We were just looking at a vaccine slide. Can you go back to that one?
One more, there it is.
There it is. I was like, I blinked and it went away. So this is really encouraging. About 77% of our students are either extremely likely or somewhat likely to elect to receive the COVID vaccine or COVID-19 vaccine when it becomes available to them. And hearing President Mahoney share that Governor Newsom is encouraged that sometime, before May, all adults over 18 might have the opportunity to elect to receive a vaccine. This is encouraging for us looking forward into the fall semester. I think the next slide talks a little bit about housing, which I just kind of previewed with you as well. So about 47% of students are indicating that they will remain home with family for the fall semester. And then about 46% indicated they were either looking at a San Francisco rental, looking at on-campus housing, or looking to move back to the Bay Area. So anywhere in the Bay to continue their classes. And that might be, in a in-person capacity, in a remote capacity, or in a hybrid capacity, kind of contingent on what their course offerings will be for the fall. But it's encouraging and certainly exciting for all of us to hear that almost 50% of our students are hoping to be in the area in some way. Let's see what the next slide has. So that just kind of gives you a little snapshot of the survey. And again, this was 6 weeks ago. It was just a little glimpse, a little temperature check for our students and how they were feeling at that time. And since then, it's been really exciting because we have the opportunity to meet with President Mahoney. She came to tonight's presentation, and she'll be meeting with students a few times before the end of the semester to answer some questions and help students kind of make their own plans, right? Paint their own pictures to see what they're most comfortable with so that they can fully picture and get excited for the fall 2021 semester. Chris, were there any questions that popped up?
So Mia, there were no questions that came up. I don't think that's any reflection. I think it's, information that just sort of sits with you, and it's, for what I've learned, and maybe you and I can kind of have a fireside chat about this. In many ways, we make a lot of assumptions that everyone sort of either is assuming the same thing or they want the same thing. And what's been very insightful, I think, on a university level, and especially in our work with student engagement, student support, student care, to find that students, are like many of us have very diverse opinions, have very diverse perspectives and very different needs or insights as to what they maybe anticipate and when it comes to either their own health, their own academics. And it's kind of adds to the complexity of how to support so many different needs for such a large institution with 30,000 students. While this being a small sample, just goes to show how complex the conversation can be. I'm just curious, did you have any insights, anything that you've taken away? I know you and I've talked about, how we plan to support students in the fall, but curious to your insights.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to note that when the university reached out and when we asked students these questions, it wasn't to make a final decision right there in that moment. I think, again, it's that temperature check, right? It's where are students feeling today at this point 6 weeks ago? And then how do these results measure up in conversation with a survey that was sent out to faculty with similar questions, a survey that was sent out to staff with also similar questions, just again, a pulse. And that's all going to be, folded into conversations President Mahoney is going to have with Provost Summit and with other leadership around campus to determine things like what classrooms can we use, how many students can fit inside the classroom, what does this look like? How many adults in the Bay Area will have received the vaccine by the time that the semester starts, and those sorts of projections. So I think, take this data as a grain of salt. We've, Chris and I have both worked with students who fall very in line with some of the majority responses here, and students who are like, no, this doesn't represent what I'm hoping for. I want to be fully in person. And what I can encourage you and assure you is that, President Mahoney she said it, she's working very closely with San Francisco Department of Public Health, and decisions about the fall are going to be made bottom line with the health and safety of your children at the forefront of all decisions. And so I'm just excited. I'm excited to get back in person like everyone else. And I'm excited to enter into the transition year, however it might look, because it will be a transition year, which means there will be an end and we will be back together soon.
So Mia, there's a handful of questions that are all housing related. So I'll just tell folks that we're just about to transition to that next section. I understand that's kind of the hot topic for us to go over. So I'll just leave those questions unanswered in the Q&A, and in a moment we'll hand it over to Conrad and David in respect to housing and residential life. But nonetheless, Mia, I really do appreciate your time. I know, good information, any information during this time is really helpful. And I just want to encourage our families that are attending with us tonight. We continue to survey and assess students on a very regular basis. So one way, if you've been with us for every forum, first, thank you. Hopefully you're not sick of us yet, but we do encourage and ask for you to help us to push your student to read their email, answer surveys, kind of put their voice out there so that staff, faculty, administrators can really hear what students need. You'll be really surprised on how much work goes into obtaining surveys and getting good numbers like this survey did. With a few thousand students, that's a very confident snapshot of what students are thinking and feeling. So please encourage your students to respond and have their voices be heard. Again, Mia, thank you for spending some time with us. Really hope you have a great night. Again, thank you. Ken, we can move on to the next slide. I would like to invite both Conrad Tobias and David Rourke. Conrad with University Housing, David with Residential Life. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us tonight. Just as you've probably seen in the Q&A and have heard sort of threaded throughout tonight's program, housing is definitely a priority topic. So I'll give you a moment to sort of share your slide together, and then I will send out a handful of questions to you when you're ready. Thank you. I think Conrad, you're slotted to go next.
Yes, thank you, Chris. If the presentation can go to the next slide. Great, thank you, Chris. Hello and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Conrad Tobias, Interim Associate Director of the Student Housing Program. I'm here to provide a brief overview of the Student Housing Program for fall 2021. If you direct your attention to the left side of the slide, you will see the available housing communities that we will have selectable as room preferences in the application process. First up is our residence halls, which are dorm-style units that will house first-year students. These communities are Mary Ward Hall and Mary Park Hall. Next up is our suites and apartment-style units that will house a mixture of first and second-year students. These housing communities are the Towers Junior Suites, Towers at Centennial Square, and Village at Centennial Square. And finally, we have our apartment style units that will mainly cater to second-year plus students, and unlike the previous communities, are located adjacent to campus. These communities are University Park North and South, and our brand new community that opened up this year, Manzanita Square. At the bottom of the slide, you will see the meal plan options that will be available, which are 19, 15, 12, and 5 meals a week plans. Each plan will also come with a set amount of flex dollars. And flex dollars are essentially an extension of the meal plan, which can be used to purchase additional meals or retail food items at one of the retail locations that our meal service provider operates. Quick note, the 5 meal plan is only available to University Park North residents, and students who are assigned to Manzanita Square or University Park South will not have a meal plan required or attached to the license agreement. However, these students still can purchase a voluntary meal plan directly with our meal service provider, Sodexo. Moving up to the upper right of the slide, you will see that we will continue to have priority groups for fall 2021, as we did for fall 2020. The reason why we have priority groups is because we are not yet operating at 100% capacity, of course, due to COVID. As such, we still consider housing limited. If we start to reach full capacity, we would like to offer housing to students who may be homeless or international over a student who might have a 30-minute commute. With that being said, I would like to point out that even though we had priority groups for this current academic year, we were still able to provide housing to anyone who applied and wanted housing, regardless of the group that they chose. We hope to continue that trend in fall 2021. This would also be a good time to point out that fall 2021 assignments will start off as a 1 person per bedroom, but may change with new and updated information that we receive from the CSU Chancellor's Office, the SF State Campus Fall Planning Committee, and of course, the San Francisco Department of Public Health. The next point, I'll go ahead and let David speak on. So go ahead, David.
Thanks, Conrad. And hi, everybody. Good evening. Happy spring. My name is David Rourke, and I use he, him pronouns, and I happily serve as the Director of Residential Life. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about my team and how we complement your students' housing experience. Once your student arrives to campus, the Residential Life team, my team, really works to connect your student to the campus community. And we do that in a variety of different ways. We focus on community building, essentially helping strangers become neighbors and friends. We focus on identity development, helping your student become the best self that they can be while they're with us. And then we also support your students' wellness and academics, and we are strong champions of social justice. In that support that we provide your student, this year, we've been taking a lot of care to intentionally connect with each student, given some of the isolation and mental health concerns that we were noticing in having sort of socially distanced assignments this year. We just wanted to make sure our students are doing well with us. And then so long as vaccines hold steady, we do expect to be planning events both virtually or digitally, as well as in person for this coming fall. And then because of this support, one of the big benefits, our resident students graduate at higher percentages and faster timeframes than their commuter counterparts. And we're pretty proud of that fact. I want to talk a little bit about my team, and then I know there's a ton of questions, so I'll try to get through this piece real quick. Our team serves our residents community 24 hours a day and 365 days a year. And that can feel a little exhausting, but we've hired some really motivated and exceptional people. And we're expecting to support our students with nearly 250 team members next fall. We do that with 24-hour desks. We are the second highest student employer on campus. So I know for some of you who are hoping that maybe your students will be employed on campus, I would say, please look to us. They can conveniently work and live right in their community that they would be living in. And then we also have about 100 student leaders and 20 full-time team members that live and work right in the buildings where your students live and learn. Now and for next fall, I wanted to just talk a little bit about some of the information that came out on that survey that Dr. Mia Rice-Weber was talking about. We know our incoming first-year students who were unfortunately not represented on that survey because they're not current students on the campus, want to be here on campus. We just know they do. And I think in many cases, you probably are really okay with them coming to campus too, so long as we can do that in a really safe way. This is a national trend. It's not specific to San Francisco State. We've been watching that trend over the last year, and it really has held steady. And there was, I think, a slide that said 13% want to return to on-campus housing. And we typically serve about 11 to 14% of the overall student body. And so we believe this is going to mean a much larger and typical housing community for our on-campus housing, similar to what we're used to serving every year. Our students this year have really established a culture of care and safety. We were not one of those campuses where there were a ton of parties or students that were refusing to wear masks. Our students held each other accountable, and they were not shy with talking to my team if they felt like roommates or guests were not adhering to this community culture that they had created. We do expect masks, hand washing to be present next year, periodic testing, and as the president had mentioned at the beginning of this call, we are encouraging vaccines when those are available. And I'm going to leave with two fun facts, and then I'll open things up to questions that you all may have. This is the first time that both housing directors and residential life directors, my counterpart, Jenny Patino is the executive director, and myself, we both live on campus. This has not occurred before in the 2.5 decades that I've been here on the campus. So when people say, do you know what's going on in the housing community? Both of us can confidently say yes, because we are living right on campus with your students. And also, I'm just, proud as punch to say that after 23 years of serving students, I am going to become one myself here at San Francisco State, and I'm going to be entering the doctoral program at our Graduate School of Education. So San Francisco State's a pretty magical place, and I wanted to say that from a personal standpoint. So Chris, I know there's a ton of questions. Yep. Let us know.
Well, congrats, David. Well-deserved, and very excited for that journey for you. I'll probably start off, Conrad, some questions I'm going to kind of stitch together for you. One, maybe you can kind of address is just the holistic process of signing up for housing. I understand that can be pretty stressful. The systems are sometimes flooded with tons of participants putting in applications. And I see some questions about, is there priority housing? What does that process look like? Are there buildings that are full already? Can things change? Could you sort of kind of wrap up sort of what that registration process looks like? I know it just opened last week, and what could we anticipate maybe looking forward?
Sure, definitely. Yes, applications did open last Monday. And as a testament to show how many students want to be back on campus, our servers crashed in the first 5 minutes. So we were not expecting that many people on the website. So we fixed that as soon as possible. But yeah, the priority groups, like I mentioned before, they will be used, but mainly on a worst case scenario if we reach the capacity. But like I said before, we were still able to provide housing to anyone and everyone who applied and wanted housing. So we hope to still continue that. There's also been some concern that some students were not able to see their preferred room preferences. And this is because there's a class standing status that's assigned to each student. And our building preferences are locked to whatever class standing that you currently have. But if you're a freshman now and you will be a sophomore in the fall, and you're looking at the sophomore room preferences, such as Manzanita Square or the UPs, send us an email. Our website is right there, housing@sfsu.edu. We'll update your preferences for you on your end within hopefully 1 business day, and we'll reply, usually with a screenshot. I think some people on this call said that they got the reply, but no screenshot. But please feel free to email us for a screenshot, and we'll confirm for sure that your preferences were updated. But yeah, there's a lot of people applying. A lot of people want to come back to on-campus living. There was a question in the Q&A that said they weren't sure if classes are going to be in person, a hybrid, or a mix, or remote, but they were unsure about applying for housing. My suggestion is just to apply for housing as soon as possible. You can always cancel your housing. You have up until, I believe, 30 days prior to move-in day. So that would be July 15th. And you should know well before then if you need to be on campus for in-person instructions. So yeah, apply for housing as soon as possible. The sooner you apply for housing, of course, the better chance that you'll receive housing.
Conrad, a related question that may have popped up with something you just mentioned. Are there, for our students who are in or applied last fall, were there any rollover? Did their deposits stay? Were they refunded? What options occurred, or should folks plan to reapply?
So I think you're speaking specifically about the students who applied last March or last spring, basically. And then of course, COVID happened and housing, was not available to them. Yes, housing, their applications did continue to stay active. We did have one of these forums where we did tell the families that, your application can still be active, but you can cancel. I believe the last date to cancel was October 23rd if their application didn't want to stay active for this academic year. Unfortunately, the applications did not roll over from past academic year to this academic year. For one thing, there is a cutoff time where we do need to cancel an application and start one completely over. And secondly, our license agreement changed quite a bit. So students who accepted and reviewed a license agreement last spring, the license agreement that's part of this application is much different. There's been quite a few changes, a lot COVID related, just unfortunately they didn't roll over. So the good news is that if the sooner you apply for housing, the better. I can never say you can, I can never say guaranteed housing. You can never say that word, but I can say applying now within 2 weeks of the application opening is the closest I can get to saying guaranteed housing. So please apply as soon as possible. Hopefully that helps.
Conrad, one maybe final question just in respect to time, folks. I do want to make sure we continue with our program. And I know there's a lot of questions, but I think some clarity, Conrad, for size of housing arrangements. Will it be 1 student per room, 2? Could you provide some context there?
Yes, so as of now, just like we're doing right now, assignments will remain at a 1 person per 1 bedroom model. Of course, that's right now. And as we receive continued guidance and information from the CSU Chancellor's Office, the San Francisco State Campus Fall Planning Committee, and of course, the San Francisco Department of Public Health, that may change. So as of now, we are still, we will do reservations on a 1 person per 1 bedroom, but if we do start to assign roommates on top of apartment mates, we will let all our applicants know ahead of time before we start to do that. So that's the plan for now. And of course, a lot of things can change within the next couple months.
And Chris and Conrad, if I could just jump in there, we are eager to bring back our roommates on campus. And the reason that we are eager to do so is, in talking with our students this year, while we did a fantastic job of creating socially distant assignments and germ bubbles around 1 student per bedroom, we also unfortunately created a lot of isolation and loneliness. And so that roommate relationship is really pivotal in the success of someone's housing experience. And we want to make sure that if we can do that safely, we can bring that back. So we are eager to do that, but we need to work with the San Francisco Department of Public Health to be able to do that safely.
And then, I think briefly, because there's still so many questions here for both of you, and again, respect to time, best way for folks to get in contact with Housing or Residential Life if they have questions specific to, say, the application or what to anticipate for fall or even, say, spring. There are some questions about spring 2022. Advice?
Sure. If you look on the slide, our email, housing@sfsu.edu, is the best way to get answers. For one, it'll be in writing, and we usually respond to inquiries within 1 business day, if not faster, within the same business day. So that would be the best way. You can even give us a call as well. We are open 5 days a week from 9 to 5, still taking calls even during this situation. And I didn't list the phone number on the slide. I apologize for that, but it is 415-338-1067. So please, yeah, email though is the best way, and we will get back to you within 1 business day for sure.
And I would defer to the housing team for any of the business related elements like our license agreement or payments or meal plans. But if you want to reach out to me and just talk to me about what it's like to make that transition to the campus, given all of the pandemic elements and what we're planning, I'm happy to talk to students or parents about that. And so my email is in the chat feature as well.
Again, there's still a handful of questions, and Conrad or David, you do also have access to the Q&A. If you have a moment to maybe type some of those answers, that'd be greatly appreciated. But I want to make sure we continue to move forward with the program. We can move to the next slide. We're going to discuss one of my favorite areas in respect to leadership development. No offense on the career services side, but I am a leadership junkie. And I know that career services and leadership development is the home of some of the most important and critical services on campus to equip students to be successful on and off campus. Orlando Harris, the Executive Director of CSLD, is here to join us. Orlando, thank you for being with us tonight. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Chris. And to everyone, welcome to the 6 o'clock hour of Sunday afternoon. Like so many of you, I've been on Zoom now for, I think this is probably, for me personally, 3 weeks straight, like including Saturday and Sundays. And so I feel you, just know that. But I'm Orlando Harris, and I serve as your Executive Director for Career Services and Leadership Development. I say that until you get accustomed to calling us CSLD. And what we really focus on, the reason why the leadership development was added to career services, because it's just about that. It's really about this holistic approach to assisting you as you matriculate from college to career. It's not just about the basic principles around the resume, the cover letters, et cetera. It's really how do we help you to focus on both your personal and your professional leadership development. And we do that in numerous ways. Our staff, albeit small, we're really, really dynamic. And we have programs throughout the semester that really focuses on assisting you with that maturation process. Those workshops, things like designing a career, choosing a major, yes, we help you with that too. Yes, the basics of updating a resume, but also the networking with professionals and alumni. We have platform. One of our primary platforms to do that is called Gator Connect. And Gator Connect has a community of alumni and business professionals that you can have access to on a really dynamic platform where you can actually sign up, submit your profile, and the platform based on your profile will match you up with a business professional or an alumni who's interested in the things that you are and interested in connecting you and assisting you in this pathway. Whether it's finding a job of internship, by the way, I tell students all the time, organizations are still hiring. Believe it or not, they made a switch. They've also moved from in-person. And so, yes, there are virtual paid internships. There are virtual part-time jobs that are still happening. There are virtual hires that are still being made. And so I encourage you, just like President Mahoney said earlier about not dropping out of school, don't drop out of your focus on your professional development and your leadership development also. Just don't do it. Because when we come out of this as a whole, those who have stayed focused and that those who have prepared themselves will be able to excel at a much faster rate. And so, yes, we are the office where opportunity and talent connect. I can tell you every single semester, we offer a full slate of programming. And so one of the things a student cannot tell us is that there's nothing for them to do. One of the things that we're most proud of is two of the programs we designed. One is around what we call the President's Leadership Fellows. We've had this program in place since 2014. We started in 2014 with 25 students in the program. As of last semester, 1,500 students have completed that program. The President's Leadership Fellows program is primarily designed for juniors and seniors. But here's the cool thing. Because of that, and because what we learned from that, we know that there is a gap. And so because of that gap and are not focusing as much on the leadership development aspects for the incoming student, the first year student, we changed that. Last semester, we launched the Gator Leadership Circle. And the Gator Leadership Circle is really designed for the first year students and some second year students. And our objective is to get you inside of this career services and leadership development ecosystem. Again, preparing you for an interview, yes, we'll do that. But here's the cool thing. We even have a platform that will assist you in that. Yes, we know that the human touch will be extremely important, but we also know that we can use technology to advance your learning and enhance that learning opportunity for you. And how do we do that? We do that through Big Interview. Big Interview is an online platform that allows you to actually go in, pick out, choose the type of person you want interviewing you. Yes, the questions are pre-prepared, but I can tell you this, it's amazing how realistic it is. Because, oh, by the way, behind there is a real person who's actually interviewing you, although pre-programmed. And so when you look at all of these support aspects where we can supplement your career, your learning, your in-classroom learning, it's all about how do we actually take those in-classroom learnings and apply them in a meaningful and relevant way. Our career counselors are beyond phenomenal. Resume, cover letter review, job and internship searching, but that may sound basic to you, but not everyone understands how to do that. And so we don't make any assumption that everyone knows how to look for a job, how to look for an internship. We don't take for granted that everyone knows about choosing a major, because some of us can admit that when we came to school, we came to college, we started out with one major. But I think the number is still something like you'll change your major at least 3 times during college. And so we want to be here to assist you when that happens. Also, one of the things that we continue to be excited about are the career test interpretations, and just understanding from who you are and where who you are could fit inside of a career. Again, understanding that you evolve. We hope that you're not the same person when you enter as a first year student. By the time you get to be a senior, we hope that there's been some evolution. And so within that evolution, sometimes those interpretations will change. And so you can have an interpretation coming in as a first year student, and you can also have one as you start to prepare for graduation. But as I speak about preparing for graduation, please, 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 whatever you do, and I know you may not believe this, but it happens all the time. 2 weeks before graduation, when we were in person, our office would be full. And you would be amazed at how many of those students had never been to our office. Let's make sure that doesn't happen. Let's make sure that you take advantage. And when I say that I serve as your executive director, my team feels the same way. They serve in their capacity on behalf of you, our students, our alumni, the university, as well as our business partners. And so if you have questions, even now, you can send your questions in to csld at sfsu.edu. You can actually email us there at csld.sfsu.edu. Go ahead and let's move to the next slide. These are just some of the assessments that we provide to our students. And what I can tell you as a student, you will get access if you're really, really interested, because we do have to invest. We actually pay for these assessments. But if you're really, really excited about these assessments, then you too can have access to some of these assessments. I've taken all of them. One of the ones that excites me the most is the Clifton Strength. Clifton Strength Finder, what it does is that is a very, very quick assessment. They encourage you not to take too much time. The questions come rapid pace. You answer the question. Don't spend too much time on it. But what will come out of that is, out of that assessment, you'll have your top 5 themes. And you got to believe me, these themes are who you are. For instance, my top 5 themes: I'm strategic, I'm futuristic, which runs my team crazy, I'm a maximizer, connectedness, and then positivity. And one of my team members who manages the Clifton Strength, he said, listen, Orlando, if you did not have positivity as one of your strengths, you could really, really be difficult to work with. Yes, because I typically run out ahead and I'm always looking for new ways and innovative ways to do things. And I do that because of those that I serve. Now, what I'm also excited about is when I speak to you about this, I'm not speaking to you about this in an abstract form. I too have a gator. My middle child is in her junior year at San Francisco, finishing up her junior year at San Francisco State University. And so in the fall, she'll be a senior. And as a parent would hope that she'll be matriculating towards a graduating senior in May of 2022. And so I tell you, the things I talk to you about are the same things I talk to my daughter about at the kitchen table. And understanding that some of you may not have that kind of access like she does. But what you do have is that you have that same access through myself in my office. And so again, I cannot overstate the importance of focusing on career services and leadership development, your career services and your leadership development now. Let's not wait until the end. We have appointments available online already. You can have a 10 to 15-minute appointment with a peer career advising counselor that talk about some of the basics, or you can have a more deeper level appointment, 30 to 45 minutes with a career counselor. All of those can be 2 ways. One, they can be via Zoom. Some people are more comfortable in the beginning. They just want to talk, but you have choices. What I want you to walk away with is knowing that you have choices and you have access. Access is the thing that really level sets the playing field. And so we want to make sure that you have access to the same type of resources that any other student at any other university would have. And so I hope that based on some of the things you've heard today, I'm always excited. See, I could even get excited on a Sunday afternoon. And so I hope you're excited too about the fact that you, as a Gator here at San Francisco State University, you have one of the premier offices, and I'm not saying this, one of the premier office for career services and leadership development in the Bay Area. And I'll leave with this. I have a donor who tells me that all the time. My donor actually works with multiple universities. She works with Stanford, she works with Berkeley, and she works with San Francisco State University. And she tells us time and time again, of all the money that she donates and all of the people that she works with, she's most excited about what we are doing here at San Francisco State. Now, I said earlier, throughout the semester, we have workshops, we have career fairs. As a matter of fact, we have a career fair coming up in April. It's already packed. I think we have 50 plus employers who are already signed up for the career fair. And some of these employers are absolutely dynamic. So if you're coming on, if you're already here, sign up, make sure that you attend the career fair, make sure that you join Handshake. Handshake is our primary platform to connect you with companies, with organizations who are hiring, very similar to LinkedIn, but here's the difference. When they come into Handshake, they're looking for you. When you're out on LinkedIn, although it's good, I say have both, but when you're out on LinkedIn, you're competing with millions and millions. Whereas with Handshake, those employers are coming into Handshake specifically looking for possible talent, just like yourselves. So build your profile. Work study positions are available on there also. You can make your career counseling appointments. You can have all kinds of points of contact with CSLD through Handshake. So make sure that your Handshake profile is set up. Chris.
Orlando, thank you. There's a few questions that popped up that I know were answered in the chat, but I think you can definitely speak to. I think around sort of work study, if you can kind of explain how CSLD sort of helps students either get connected, because I know there's only so many available to students, but if you have any sort of tips or ideas about approaching the work study through CSLD.
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you, make sure you get your Handshake profile, because the majority of campus employers actually use Handshake to post even their work study. And by the way, when you go into Handshake, there's a pull down tab that you can click just for work study, and it will show you nothing but the work study jobs. So yes, although we are a large platform, we actually push work study jobs out to you as well. And so if you have any questions, again, email us. You can get an appointment and we can have that next level conversation with you to walk you through how to make sure that you understand your access to those work study jobs.
Now, Orlando, maybe a broader question, and you mentioned you have a fellow Gator, and given that most of our audience are parents and families, so a similar question I threw at President Mahoney: what advice would you give, say, families that are sitting here together with us tonight about thinking about internships, careers, or just approaching, say, the career services and leadership development office for the first time? Like, what would you tell your Gator?
What I can say to you is this: parents, at times, especially early on, we kind of have to be parents. In other words, we may have to be a little pesty at times, because I even asked my daughter, although I can go online and see it, whether she's done certain things or not, I still ask the question. For instance, when she came to San Francisco State, she said, Dad, I was thinking about, and I knew where she was going. She was talking about her resume. And I said, Hallie, you have a career counselor that you can make an appointment with. You just because I'm your dad, I'm not giving you that kind of access. You need to make sure that you're going online. So what I recommend to parents is just ask engaging questions. How's your resume? Have you sat down with a career counselor? Have you talked about the things that we heard on the call about building out your profile? So just be engaging and ask them those single questions to allow them to talk a little bit more about what they're doing, and then just be encouraging. But I can say this, as a parent, I joke about this all the time. Students, if you don't know what ROI is, I'll tell you now. ROI is a return on investment. Your parents have made a substantial investment in you, and they want to see that return. And what I mean by that is not all about money. It's not all about income, although it does help, but it's about what are you doing to ensure that you continue to evolve and that you continue to learn and that you continue to grow. Part of that is that return on that investment. And so parents, I say just ask questions. How's that coming? How's your resume? How's your LinkedIn profile? If you don't know, you can even email us and ask those same questions. But we're here for you. I ask the same questions of my daughter to make sure that she's doing those things that she needs to be doing also. I hope that helps.
Very much so. And now I could kind of hear my own mom reminding me of the ROI in our relationship, but that's a conversation.
And don't worry, I have an older daughter who graduated last May, and we had the same conversations with her. And here's the thing, I'll end with this, Chris. Internships and jobs are so important while you're in college. There have been numerous studies, and you know what those studies say? You can be an A student, and that's fine. But if you're a student if you worked and you have internships, at least 3 during your college career, you are moved much higher into the hiring possibilities. That's why jobs and internships are so important. You can't just be focused on your academics. You got to be showing that you can do these things even while you're making those grades.
Now, Orlando, I know one of our student panelists that are with us tonight, they wanted to chime in because I know they have a good relationship with CSLD. And Claudia, do you want to chime in for a moment?
Wow, a non-paid endorsement.
Never.
Hi, I'm Claudia. So I personally have really utilized CSLD pretty much all the time that I've been in SFSU. I've utilized Handshake a lot. It's really awesome because you can filter out specific things that you want with certain jobs that you're looking for, or also connect with people through that. You can filter out and choose like part-time jobs, full-time jobs, on-campus jobs, off-campus, jobs that pertain to your major if you're wanting to get more work with that. So I found that really helpful and really awesome, and just like searching what's out there, what I can use. I've also utilized, it's called Big Interview, I believe, through CSLD.
Mhm.
I find it super helpful. You pretty much are right in front of your computer. It asks you certain questions that you'd be asked in an interview, and you can, it records a video of you, and you can look back on it, seek improvements, seek ways that you can better improve yourself, and when you're actually going to be applied in a real life interview. And also, I was in the President Leadership Fellowship for a bit. I wasn't able to complete it because I just had a really busy schedule, but it's super helpful. Just, it really taught me a lot about my own personal leadership development. And I just want to say all the resources I've used that I just mentioned, it's super helpful. So if you ever need support, you can feel free to reach out to the CSLD and career advice, or just if you're wanting to develop yourself as a leader, it's just super helpful.
Claudia, thank you so much. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, thank you both. And Orlando, you gave me an idea for our next family forum. I always am taken back by your charisma, your energy, but also the advice specifically about parenting and supporting college students. And the idea I have is to try to find all our staff, faculty, administrators who either have current students at San Francisco State or have had students at San Francisco State, and make a really broad forum. So I'm curious with our participants here tonight, if that sounds good, let us know in the chat. And maybe Orlando, you could be sort of facilitating that space. Take me out of here. I mean, I'm years away from having a little kiddo one day, but nonetheless, sound advice, and do really appreciate your time with us tonight.
Thank you for the opportunity, Chris.
Thank you. So Lee Twyman, I believe you're next in respect to student activities and events. We can move to the next slide. And just for our participants, we are a little over time, so I encourage you to stick with us tonight. We have some great information, and then if there's any questions, we'll be sure to address those. But Lee, thank you for being here. I know you're going to talk about helping students get connected in clubs, organizations, events on campus. Nonetheless, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Chris, and hello and good evening, everyone. We are sometimes referred to as the fun office, but we are so much more than that. We promote student development learning by encouraging healthy balance of co-curricular involvement, engagement. We promote and encourage leadership development, and through our advising and services, we provide resources and support that assists students in flourishing in their involvement and experience on campus. I personally like to point out that many times students learn a lot more outside of the classroom than they learn inside the classroom. I'm a very big promoter of that. When you get involved with student organizations, there's lots to offer there. Whether you join as a member or choose to lead one, simply taking part of an extracurricular group will enhance your school experience. Gaining skills and making connections and broadening your knowledge through student organizations will help our students become more well-rounded individuals who are ready and take their future careers to a different level. Benefits of student organizations: you can learn to make a large campus smaller. So we are a campus of, I think, 27,000 this year. By what I mean by that is when you come onto campus, a large high school campus is typically around 4,000 students. So now all of a sudden your student is going from, if they come from a large high school campus, from 4,000 students to 27,000. So joining student organizations is a quick way to maximize your networking and bring your large campus down to a smaller, more manageable campus. You learn outside of the classroom, and some of the things that you learn joining a student organization presents many opportunities to learn more about yourself and your goals and your strengths. You can also find out what you're good at and whether multitasking, staying organized, generating ideas, or serving others. This self-awareness will be beneficial in your future career. You will also develop soft skills. Soft skills are essentially people skills. These are the skills that allow us to effectively interact with others through like communication, your attitude, and your work ethic. You also learn to work with the team. Knowing how to work with the team is an essential skill for any career. Being in a student organization teaches you how to do, it teaches you how to work with people that you probably never worked with before. It puts you in situations where you are required to take advice from others and give advice to others. Like I mentioned before, it's also a good place for networking. What I mean by networking is not just only the students that you work with, but also alumni that you work with, professors that you can invite into your student organizations to teach enhancement skills. You learn practical experience through a safe environment. What I mean by that, while you learn to use skills like project management, event planning, and fundraising, you get to test those skills out in a safe environment. So you put on events on campus where you get very much involved in the planning of these events, and you're able to test out what you know and how you know it and some of the things that you learned in the classroom. You will be able to apply classroom experience to your student organization as you also develop leadership and life skills that help you become effective. You'll learn how to engage with diverse groups of people. So San Francisco was a very diverse campus. Student organizations will often include a very diverse group of people. Students organizations can also provide the opportunity to learn about different cultural backgrounds. So if you've had limited experience with other ethnic and cultural groups outside of what you've had before, this is a perfect way for you to learn how to deal with students that you probably didn't have the opportunity to interact with before. Sorry. Also, we have Greek organizations throughout. We have many different organizations. We have over 250 student organizations on our campus. This past year, we didn't have as many student organizations registered as we've had before, only because of the COVID situation, but through virtual planning and things, we were still able to have lots of student organizations do events on campus. They were also able to have meetings virtually. You will be surprised how innovative some of the organizations have gotten on campus with doing virtual programming. Some of the ways that they were able to introduce themselves was through recording videos of what they do. They've done events on Instagram Live, as well as Zoom meetings. So they've gotten very creative in how they have been able to put together programs. If you want to know more about our student organizations, you can go to our website. It's activities@sfsu.edu. And also, one of the things that we use for student organizations to promote themselves on campus is called Gator Experience. And you can go to that at sfsu.campuslabs.com/engage.
Thanks, Lee. I just threw some of these links for our participants to check out. I'm going to go ahead and put the Gator Experience platform in there now. Lee, similar question I've asked folks tonight, and just to share some more context with you, our last family forum, families were sharing that their students were just sort of having some either hesitation getting connected, they were feeling just either Zoom fatigue, and taking that step to connect with more people remotely, but there's still that need and a need to either get connected, whether it be formally with organizations or informally, just socially to hang out. Any advice for families tonight on maybe their students somewhere in that space? What direction or input you would provide?
The first thing that I would always invite a student to do is to think about the things that they already are interested in or things that they may want to explore. This is a perfect opportunity for you to explore something new that you have not done before, but you may have been interested in. And if you need to help get in contact with a student organization, you can go on to Gator Experience. I just gave you sfsu.campuslabs.com/engage. You can go there, you can check out the student organizations. They all have a page there. If they are registered student organizations, they are registered through Gator Experience. If you have issues or problems getting in contact with someone, you can always email me at my email address is Monolito, that's M as in Mary, O, N as in Nancy, O again, L-I-T as in Tom, and last O, at sfsu.edu. So that's Monolito, M-O-N-O-L-I-T-O, at sfsu.edu. Get in contact with me, and I will definitely put you in contact with anybody in any student organization that you want to be a part of.
Awesome. I'll be sure to put your email in the chat because I know I would have missed that one. You got unique last name there, Lee. I also know, you've been at San Francisco State for, thanks, Lee. I know you've been at San Francisco State for some time and you've seen, many students come through your office, whether it be joining Greek life or just clubs and organizations, but also they find a lot of support from you. And as you just mentioned, you're always willing to sit down and connect with the student. Big part of that is making and knowing those connections between, say, what organizations, or as you just mentioned, the interests that students have, but they just don't know, maybe that compass inside of them is spinning around and they're just not sure what direction to go to. I know this might seem like a broad question, but given your work and all the care and compassion you have for students, can you share a little bit about your approach and how you work and support students?
My personal individual approach is always to get to know a student. I like to take that personal approach to students. I sit down with them. I have an open door policy. I tell students all the time, especially when we're on campus, just come in, drop in. If I'm busy, I will make time for you. So you may sit down for a few minutes while I'm finishing up something else, but I will always make time for a student. Students, they take that invitation so seriously that you have students that come in 4 to 5 times a week, and sometimes they come in just to chat. And like I explain to people all the time, I understand what that chat is about. They come in, they might will start off chatting about basketball or something like that, but that's them filling me out, trying to get a feel for who I am, because they have much deeper questions that they like to ask me. And it leads them, and Orlando can tell you this, many times it leads me to taking them to another office, dropping them off or on something that they've discussed with me before, things that they're trying to accomplish. You would be surprised. It's a variety of things that students come in and talk to me about. And I'm very humbled and blessed that they trust me to talk to me about these things, because I love connecting them to the things that they want to do. Sometimes it's as deep as, I need to change my major. My parents want me to do this, but I don't feel that. That's when they get a knock at Orlando's door with them in tow, or someone following me up to the registrar's office or to financial aid or something like that.
I know we shared an office for a little while, definitely before, the pandemic, and you definitely have an open door policy. And then I think, as Orlando did say, and many of the speakers tonight, that it just takes some time sitting down and thinking through what you really want to do and where, what brings you joy and finding that.
Yeah, my door's open so much, I'm there till 10, 11, 12 o'clock sometimes. The students are still there with me visiting. I'm helping them in their student organizations, in their meetings. Students come to me when they have problems about how to solve conflicts. So it's a variety of things.
So I saw a question pop up, Lee, in respect to sort of the broader orientation to clubs and organizations. Of course, while we're remote, that could look a bit different, but you're definitely familiar with Gator Fest and some of the large organizational fairs. Do you want to provide maybe sort of what students can maybe anticipate, or especially as sort of our annual routine in the intro to clubs and orgs?
So a couple of things that we've done in the past for Gator Fest when we were on campus, hopefully we'll be able to do these things again. There were many different things. We did a carnival that hosted for the incoming students, where Greek organizations and other student orgs took part in that. So they were there to welcome them in. We also had the Greek block parties, so students can come and get acclimated with Greek organizations, ask the questions that they want to ask. I'm drawing a blank right now, but there's 3 or 4 other programs that involve student organizations, to where incoming students get to interact with the actual student organizations. They get to ask questions about the organizations, or if we recognize that for incoming student, it may be a little intimidating coming up to older students that have been involved in student organizations. And sometimes there's always so many of them, but we've tried to, during Gator Fest, create an environment that's a fun activity to where people can relax and be at ease. They can ask simple questions and they can get to know someone and get to know something about the organization without having to feel intimidated. I know it's going to look very different virtually. We did a very good job this year doing some of the things virtually. I can't think of any of the events that we've done this year off the top of my head, but I know we stretched them out for a longer period of time, so we didn't have to put it all together in one big thing. And I think it worked out pretty well to where incoming students were able to get involved and get in contact with student organizations.
Yep, and it's definitely been a learning curve to say the least, but you know, it's also a two-way street, and sometimes students have to take that first leap where it might seem, like you said, intimidating to talk to upperclassmen or staff, but just opening that door a little bit, there's tons of opportunity to get connected and engaged.
And what I would say to students is take a look at Gator Experience. A lot of the student orgs post the events that they're doing, that they're hosting on Gator Experience. Go there, take a look at some of the events that they're doing, and just show up. Sometimes that's all it takes, is just showing up, and you'll be surprised how those students in these student organizations will come up to you and strike a conversation with you, and it doesn't have to be so intimidating.
Lee, maybe final question, and then we'll bring in our student panel. Assuming that we will be back to person in some form, and this question might be a little too early, but we could put it out there, but are we planning to have any type of pledging or fraternity Greek life events? Some know that as Rush.
Yes, so last year, even virtually, there were Rush events, and there was new member education being done virtually for Greek organizations. So definitely that is in the works, whether we are virtually, whether we are hybrid, or whether we are in person. I know that that's something that will always be available.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lee. If you want to stick around, we're going to wrap up here with our student panel, Claudia, John V. I'm not sure if Elena is still with us, but want to hand it off and kind of give you an open forum. If anything you heard tonight, Claudia, I really appreciated you tuning in respect to CSLD and sharing your insights. But we've had a really full agenda, and want to give you a moment if there were some insights or notes you took tonight that you feel that families could hear and benefit from.
So my biggest piece of advice is just for students to always take initiative. Students aren't really going to get the opportunities they need or get the resources they need if they don't take the initiative themselves to search for those resources or reach out, whether that's by like email or going to like just peer advising meetings that a lot of departments do offer. Even with student activities and events, all of those clubs and organizations students can join. Sometimes it's very intimidating to take that step, and can be very intimidating to do that, I know from personal experience, but actually doing that can really get students connected to resources they need, to other Gators that can really help them connect with social aspects during the remote environment, and then just getting involved through SFSU.
I'm muted. Sorry, Grace, I see that you're there. Thank you, Claudia. Grace or John B?
I want to say that your students should check their email all the time. I know that sounds like cliche and maybe like, everyone's always saying that, but really a lot of these services do reach out over email all the time. And on top of this, there's things like Frosh Memo and a lot of communications that are heading out to them all the time about events they can attend, about ways they can get involved, about resources they can connect to. So just make sure that to encourage them, be like, hey, check your email. Like actually read those emails because they're meaningful and they're important. And there's a lot of information that they might be missing. So.
Good advice.
For me, I saw a lot of questions on like worries about their students connecting with the campus. So I would really emphasize the new student help desk. That is a Zoom link that students can log into and meet with a student mentor. So us three and like a few other student mentors will be there and we will answer questions and just help out.
John, I love that you brought that up, and honestly, I forget it from time to time, and it's in our own office. And the new student help desk is such a casual space. So as Lee said, and of course our student panels, and really honestly all our speakers tonight, a lot of the transition and any transition in life can feel uncomfortable and conflicting at times. And if you could see, these three amazing students here with you, there's many more, but they're a brilliant example of the care and compassion that's on the other side of this screen to meet, a fellow student in a very casual place. And sometimes that's a nice first step, right? Being able to just talk to someone one-on-one, be like, how did you become an orientation leader? Or how did you become this mentor? Or where did you find a club you liked, and what about clubs you didn't like? What happens if you decide to say no, which you can? So maybe off of that, I'm curious for our students tonight, thinking of your transition to campus, while that may seem like a long time ago, do you have any advice about, say, like do's or don'ts, or maybe even moments where you're like, yeah, I had to say no to these things and it worked out? Claudia, I know you kind of hinted to it with CSLD, and you still have, good stories and insights there. Any thoughts?
One big thing is just always maintaining like a balance between school, work, other events, other activities. It's always important to just keep in mind your mental health and everything that's going on around you, just because focusing on like school and also reaching out to the new like social environment around you, being like a first year student or a transfer student at SFSU, it's definitely difficult. So just always maintaining that balance. Set some time aside for work or homework, some time aside for like hanging out with people or going to like an event. It's just really important just to maintain that balance just for like health reasons.
I will also add that a lot of club activities and organizations are kind of low risk. Like you can just dip your toe in, sorry, and go to an event. You don't have to sign up for the event, but you can see what it's like and see maybe what the time commitments look like, what, how the people are. And that's really low risk. You just go in and say hi. So encouraging your student to do things like that is really great because they can figure out what they like and test those things out, especially with Gator Experience and all these events going on all the time. There's so many opportunities to meet different clubs, different organizations. So definitely encourage them to check that out.
For me, it's just being careful of a class load. I think it's really easy to think like, oh, I can definitely go over 15 units, but then you're taking like hours of classes. So I think it's okay just to take a break and just be like, okay, I have to take either a little bit below 15 units or just 15 units.
Really good advice. Again, I want to thank the three of you for joining us tonight. Curious if you have any like final thoughts or words of wisdom for fellow students that are on the other side of the screen here, or parents and families. It's okay if you don't, putting you on the spot.
I do. Just always remember, through this pandemic and through everything, we are all in this together, and you all, students and parents and families, everyone has resources and supporters there just to help you get through this, help you with transitioning, or for students to transition back to school once we can. Just know there's always people out there to support you.
All right, well said. Well, folks, and Ken, I'll ask that you maybe get us to our very last slide. The program went a little long tonight, but really, really great information. And I want to thank a large list of folks tonight, and I'll mention them quickly. Nicole Lang for helping kick things off and really helping bring this program together. Mia Rice-Weber, who discussed our fall student impressions and experience survey. With our housing, I know it is a complicated and ever-changing process. Both Conrad and David, really appreciate you kind of facing, a lot of complex, unique, personal, and difficult questions in a very ever-changing situation. And just want to thank you for meeting families here in this space. And just probably a note to our families, if you missed any of the questions or chat, that we understand that housing, of course, it's one of those Maslow hierarchy of needs, and it's a critical component of your student experience. To continue to reach out to housing at sfsu.edu if you have any pressing questions, or you want to continue the conversation beyond tonight, or you can reach out to us at New Student and Family Programs, and we can be a liaison and get you connected to housing if there's anything pressing, or if you want to have a casual, more broad conversation about the options of living on or off or going remote, and you just want to speak to someone about how to make your decision, you can always set up some time with us, and we'll be happy to meet you there. Want to thank Orlando Harris in talking about career services and leadership development. Thank you for your time. Lee, talking about student activities and events, really appreciate really the essential co-curricular experience that complements what students learn in the classroom, and what happens out of the classroom is equally important. Our president joined us tonight, and a huge gratitude for her time in her very busy schedule, but I know this was a very high priority list item for her to connect with you, and we will continue to invite the president and other administrative staff to share how the university operates, because we know that's an essential component for you all to support your student. I also want to quickly highlight the Family Forum Planning Committee. You may see their names as panelists, but Ken, Charlene, Nisha, Vernon, they are really an awesome team that really just brings this whole program together. And if I missed anyone, I apologize, but I saved them for last because they are so important. It's our students, and students are number one. So Grace, John V, Claudia, thank you again for spending your night with us. I'm sure you've got, well, no, it's spring break. Even more, thank you for spending time with us on your break. Hopefully you don't have too much homework or say assignments to do, but we admire your leadership, and let alone you make a conscious decision to not only be a student, but help other students. And that speaks volumes to your character and just what it means to be a Gator. So with that, thank you three as well. I know not all our student leaders were able to join us, but I'm sure they will in the future. And again, for our parents and families here tonight, thank you for spending time with us at this extended program. Please continue to check your email. We plan another forum coming up next month. So we will continue to think through topics and ideas after each forum. But if you have some that are specific and you want us to address, reach out to us at New Student and Family Programs. We'll be sure to include it in our process. But I always like to end in these difficult times to take care of yourself, to take care of your family, treat yourself, do what you need to bring some comfort and relaxation in your life. For me, I'm gonna have some ice cream tonight and I'm looking forward to it. But also I just wanna emphasize to remind someone you love them. It's a real easy thing to do, and it feels good. And so with that, we hope you all are well and you take care, and we hope to see you at our next family forum. With that, we'll close the program in about 2 minutes. So if there's any pressing questions or chat, we'll keep it open. Otherwise, thank you and have a great Sunday night. Take care.